2024 will see us rolling out an additional 300,000 fee-free TAFE places. This is, of course, on top of the 300,000 commencements that we had in 2023. We promised 180,000 and delivered 300,000. A great example of us providing cost of living relief through fee-free TAFE, whilst also addressing the longer-term issues of labour market shortages and supply chain issues that Australia has to deal with in order to continue to put that downward pressure on inflation. Our priority will be to provide cost of living relief whilst taking pressure off inflation. And I've asked Treasury and Finance to come up with further propositions that we'll consider in the lead up to the May budget this year, following the MyEFO that we released in December. We also want to help more Australians live in their own home. Already 26,000 people have been helped in the first 6 months of our expanded home guarantee scheme. We'll continue to strengthen Medicare, and all 58 urgent care clinics that we promised would be open by the end of the year are now up and running right around Australia. And part of the agreement with states and territories to strengthen Medicare and to strengthen primary health care was to have further support there. We want a future made in Australia as well, and we are looking at further measures in ways that the transition to a clean energy future can lead to additional jobs being created here as well, through value adding, moving up the supply chain, making sure that we do make more things here, which is about Australian jobs here. And that's what our engagement with the world is about as well, making sure that Australia's position is strengthened by our engagement in the international community, including with ASEAN, including with our Pacific neighbours, but also, of course, the enhancements that we're making to improve our trade relationships, including the removal of any impediments to trade with China. We know that those impediments led to some $20 billion reduction in our trade, and we've seen that step up, and we'll see further advances in that this year, as we saw at the end of 2023, the removal of some of the impediments to some of the meat supplies going into China. I do want to mention a couple of other things as well before I take questions. One is the plane crash in Japan. Our hearts go out to our friends in Japan, both for the impact of the earthquake that has seen a considerable loss of life. As well, of course, we know that there are ongoing issues as a result of that major earthquake, including the potential for tsunamis and other activity there. And we will provide and have offered whatever support is requested by our friends in Japan. In addition to that, tragically, there was a plane crash at Haneda Airport in Tokyo soon after that earthquake that involved a plane that was providing support for the earthquake with a Japan Airlines flight. We understand that there were 12 Australians on board that Japan Airlines flight, but all of those people are safe and accounted for. However, any Australians in need of emergency consular assistance should contact the Australian Government's 24-hour Consular Emergency Centre on Australian number +61 2 6261 3305. That's from outside Australia, or within Australia, 1300 555 135. That's 1300 555 135. I do want to make some comments about the release of documents that takes place every 20 years. The process there is that documents are provided to the National Archives of Australia 3 years in advance. So the documents for what occurred in 2003 were provided in 2020 by the then Morrison government to the National Archives of Australia. It's clear that there were some cabinet records missing from that transfer from the government. Some 78 cabinet records were not transferred to the National Archives. The Public Service have now, within days of being notified of that, provided the remaining documents to the archives, and the head of the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet has commenced an independent review that will be conducted by Dennis Richardson as to how this failure in 2020 to provide all the appropriate documentation occurred. Let me make it very clear of what my government's position is. Australians have a right to know the basis upon which Australia went to war in Iraq. Australians lost their lives during that conflict, and we know that some of the stated reason for going to war was not correct in terms of the weapons of mass destruction that was alleged Iraq had at that time. Australians do have a right to know what the decision-making process was, and my government believes that this mistake must be corrected, that the National Archives of Australia should release all the documentation that has been provided to them, having account for any national security issues, of course, upon the advice of the national security agencies. But there is no reason why these documentations should be, with the exception of putting people in danger, should be not released in a transparent way. So we have asked that this occur, and if this doesn't occur, we'll look at whether the government needs to take further action to ensure that there's transparency here, because Australians do deserve to know the basis upon which the decision was made to send Australia to war. We know at that time this was an issue which did not have bipartisan support. Simon Crean made the courageous decision and the tremendous speech when he saw off our troops here in Sydney of saying that we always support our troops, but we did not support their decision at that time.